In a world where people give arbitrary awards for arbitrary reasons, this is the Subjective Objective Awards of 2015, where I give my subjective opinions of what's objectively the best of 2015. Best Soundtrack. Number 4. Okay, how could we have a soundtrack category without Hotline Miami? Like, seriously. Hotline Miami 2 soundtrack is just great in all regards. It meshes so appropriately with what is going on screen. With an impressive amount of different artists and tracks, none of which feel out of place, either upbeat and trippy or downright eerie, there's something that fits no matter what. If you want music that will thoroughly get your blood pumping, while maintaining its just theme of pure 80s-ness, just look no further than Hotline Miami 2, Wrong Number. Number 3. The music in Undertale is quite something special, I must admit. The music itself honestly reminded me of playing on my dad's SNES back in the day. Retro game music isn't the easiest thing to pull off, as the dearth of retro-inspired indie games has shown us in the past few years. There's a difference that not everyone quite understands between retro-inspired and retro at heart. There will always be a place in this world for good chiptune music, and despite my gripes with this game, the music is far from one of them. Number 2. What can I say about the music in Transformers Devastation without repeating what I said in Hotline Miami? All of it, and I do mean all of the music, is on point. Not a single track, I feel, is ill-suited for the game, the genre of the game, or even the license. Everything, every note, every guitar solo, every beat, every drum hit, everything feels like it was just made for Transformers. Platinum has a history of putting good music in their games, and Transformers is no exception. What I can only describe as just 80s metal works so well in this fast-paced action brawler. Sadly, however, I do need to take off a few points because the game lacks, in my opinion, some classic tunes that are synonymous with Transformers that would have made it perfect. Stambush, anyone? Number 1. Look, I don't care what you have to say. Have you heard the music in The Crypt of the Necrodancer? Tell me it's not great. Go on. Tell me. You're lying. While this is not my favourite genre of music, Crypt of the Necrodancer quite literally danced away with my heart. I'm not normally one for loading up a game soundtrack and just having it on repeat for an entire day. But god damn, this game made me do it. Hell, I'm listening to it right now as I record this. I was so close to giving this to Transformers, but this game cheated by having music this good. And let's not get started on the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper is the best element of that game. I don't care what anyone says. Best aesthetic. Number 4. How a game looks is a tricky thing to talk about, especially nowadays. Whenever you mention aesthetic, people assume you mean the graphic impressiveness of the game or how realistic it looks, instead of the stylistic choice that has been pursued with a genuine reason. Now, I know I'm going to contradict myself here by placing Star Wars Battlefront on this list, but you cannot deny that despite its many flaws, this is a beautiful looking and sounding game. It's arguably one of the most visually impressive, in my opinion, games that is on console to date. And if it is to be praised for anything, it should be praised for that. Number 3. I'll be the first to admit, I'm not a huge fan of Splatoon. It's an average playing shooter with some dodgy amiibo unlockable practices, with an annoying as hell theme song. I don't care if you're a squid now, you're a kid now, you're a squid now. Just shut the hell up. Just shut the hell up. However, this game's visuals are anything but annoying. The mess of colours, the cartoony nature of the world and the characters, and how it uses its colour as an entire basis of the gameplay is something I must applaud Nintendo for. They took a genre which is dominated by dude bro military greys and browns and actually made it fun to look at. And that itself is an accomplishment. Number 2. Ori and the Blind Forest is a beautiful game. There's no argument to be had here. If you want to argue, stop it. It's always nice when a game developer remembers that there are several different colours to choose from and actually makes full use of them. Ori and the Blind Forest is a game that will often bring up confusion when the topic of best graphics is discussed. If someone were to come up to me and say Ori has the best graphics or Ori is the best looking game of 2015, I couldn't necessarily disagree with you. Like, it's not a technical powerhouse, but it's a consistently beautiful game that does amazing work with what it offers. Number 1. Bloodborne. Now here's a game that is anything but beautiful in the typical way that is. This game is beautiful, but a different kind of beautiful. This game is downright horrifying in gameplay, its visuals, and the sound design. Bloodborne's aesthetic is constantly threatening, constantly terrifying, and constantly amazing at all times. It wears its influences very clearly on its sleeves, but that doesn't detract from it at any point. The visual design of the world itself and all its inhabitants fill you with a sense of wrongness, a sense of unease. And as a game inspired by Lovecraft, that wrongness is quintessential. Some will argue that Dark Souls 1 is the best Souls game in terms of the setting and how the story is mostly told through the setting itself and its inhabitants. But I will argue that to no end. I believe Bloodborne, especially since the DLC has come out, which only adds more to the world itself, is the evolution of the Souls series, and I can only hope Dark Souls 3 takes more from Bloodborne than just paying lip service to the Dark Souls 1 fanbase. Games I didn't enjoy as much as everyone else. Number 4. What can I say? It's football with cars. That's literally it. I never fully understood the crazed hype that surrounded this game. I looked out my window and I saw the Rocket League hype train, and then I closed my curtains. I'm not a massive fan of football, so why would adding cars fix that? But no, you can add little flags to your car. Is that meant to sell it for me? Is that meant to sell the game to me? I don't understand why people fell in love with this. There's a game that came out prior to this, made by the same people, that had more content. So why Rocket League got amazing reviews and was loved, I just don't understand. Number 3. I'll admit, this is a bit of an unfair entry. I've never been a big fan of the Metal Gear Solid games. I think the stories are convoluted and bordering on stupid at the best of times. I do like the themes and ideas that they put forth, however, but asking me to play these games is out of the question. I have never managed to beat a game in this series, because I often lose interest. The Phantom Pain is no exception. The story this time, however, is hidden from the player in the form of cassette tapes that make no sense, because why would you record 90% of these conversations? This game was praised by reviewers and fans alike for being the perfect game to play in the series if you've never played a Metal Gear Solid game before. And on that day, the biggest lie in the gaming industry was told. If you don't care about the story, then sure, you can play this game and almost get no story out of it. It's perfectly fine. However, if you have a passing interest and decide to look into the cassette tapes, here's a tip for you. Don't. You'll start hearing characters' names, you'll start hearing events and references that you won't have any clue what they're about. Unless you've beaten every game in the series. Possibly even the Metal Gear games, I'm not entirely sure myself. The fact that this game has no ending doesn't help either, seeing as Konami shipped the game before the ending was even finished, and the game's main villain is the most criminally underused villain in any form of media since Darth Maul. Number 2. Life is Strange. Oh boy, where to begin? The somewhat predictable story, the terrible writing, the unlikable characters. I honestly don't know what to say about this game other than just why. I have friends that swear by this game. I have a friend who loves it, who says it's the best game of the year. I think they're insane. This should have been a single release. This should not have been episodic. I got halfway through episode 3, I think, or I beat episode 3, one of the two. It's that unrememberable. I got to episode 3 and said, "Fuck it, I'll watch a let's play." I was that uninterested in the game, and I'll tell you what, I watched that let's play. It ended how I thought it would in episode 2, and I'm quite glad I didn't play through the rest of the game myself. All they had to do was make the two main characters likable. If they just did that, I would have sat through. But they didn't. They just didn't. They clearly never spoken to teenagers before, but they figured, yeah, we can write for teenagers, and let's make them lesbians because that'll get people to like the game. No, that is shallow as all fuck. Nothing in this game really. Even the supporting cast, most of them weren't that great. There was like one or two which I really liked. One of them turned out to be the main villain, and you know what? That was better! That made his character better! He was a good character! The rest were just there! I've never felt so unimpressed and disconnected from a game and its characters as I did playing this. And this would be much, much higher up, but number 1 takes the cake. Number 1. Okay, those who actually follow my channel saw this coming a mile off. Undertale. I don't get it, but I do. I get the game. I get what it was trying to do. I get why it was trying to do it. I just don't like it. If it wasn't for the music, I'd have almost nothing good to say about this game. The writing was obnoxious and pretty stupid. The story was bare bones at best until it throws the most immersion-shattering plot dump at you out of nowhere. Even the twist at the end was poorly done, in an attempt for an M. Night gotcha moment. I cared little for the characters in this game, especially that last character that the game expects you to like because they're quote-unquote lovable. But what you get from that character is that they are a lol, look at me, I'm a satire on weeaboo culture. No. No, you're not. A satire is being more than the thing you're poking fun at. You are literally the thing, but pretending you are more. That is what Undertale is. It's trying to be more than what it is, but it isn't. At all. However, if you listen to what its somewhat cancerous fan base tells you, Undertale is the second coming of Jesus. And quite honestly, I hope this is the last time I ever have to talk about Undertale. The music can stay, but I can't wait for the eventuality that is this game's disappearance into memory. Best game of 2015. Number 4. This is a game I expect to be overlooked by many other people. What with the likes of Fallout and The Witcher crashing through the door, swinging their dicks like sledgehammers until someone pays attention to them. But Until Dawn is an absolute beauty of a game. It's a self-aware and delightfully cheesy homage to horror films of old, filled with all of the tropes that we've come to love and expect, and actually deals with the idea of player choice, cause and effect in a pretty damn clever way. Until Dawn is portrayed as an interactive movie-styled game similar to that of David Cage, only it's well written, has engaging characters, and is actually good. If Quantic Dream's next game takes a look at Until Dawn before making it, they can only benefit. And I want them to benefit because at this point, David Cage is practically a walking joke. Which is sad because I respect what he tries to do, but he's shit at it. And this game and this game developer managed to do it perfectly on their first attempt, where it's taken David many a years to do. Number 3. Speaking of Fallout 4, here's Fallout 4. This game received no end to its praise and hype, and for good reason. This is a good ass game. Maybe not the best Fallout, but still pretty damn good regardless. And finally we have a Fallout game with colour. Isn't it beautiful? There's colour in the wasteland, not just grey and brown and browny grey. There's blue, there's green, I think I saw red, there's colour. Praise the Lord. But seriously, it is good to see a game that isn't as dreary as the others. It makes me actually excited to explore the Commonwealth, which is what you want from a Fallout game. You want the desire to explore it. And I'm glad that you get at least the tiniest glimpse of what the pre-war world was like right before the bombs hit. And the moment the bombs hit, which was pretty good. Don't get me wrong though, this game does have its problems. Most of the RPG aspects feel ripped out in place of more FPS focused gameplay. And a lot of the quests have been dumbed down to the point where it's nearly always go here, kill the thing, go there, kill the things, collect the thing, bring the thing back. It leaves a lot to be desired, honestly. Also, the conversation system. What happened? What happened? Is not great at all. You don't get a clear idea of what your character is going to say when you pick the option. And where the hell are the skill-based dialogue options? If I have science, my guy should have science-based answers to science things, but no. It all just boils down to how many points in charisma do you have. I must admit that I think this is the most bug-free launch I have seen from a Bethesda game. Personally, anyway. The only bug in my 50-odd hours of gameplay is when one of my settlements randomly jumped from 3 settlers to 20 when I loaded in. And I knew something was wrong, not just because like maybe it came in organically, but there was so many of these settlers in the small shack, they were on the roof. They clearly had just spawned in somehow, and I had no answer for it. And I can't finish talking about Fallout 4 without mentioning the power armor. I loved what they did with the power armor, making it more of a vehicle than just a simple piece of armor that you can just put on. I loved that. Great change. Number 2. I'll admit it. I'm not the biggest Transformers fan. I've never read the comics, and G1 had ended a few years before I was even born. So most of my G1 knowledge comes from either reruns that I was lucky enough to catch, VHS tapes that I was able to borrow off my friends, or from watching the later series like Armada, Energon and Cybertron, which isn't G1 at all, but it helped my Transformers understanding at least. But even so, this game hit all of the nostalgic points for me. Nostalgia that I had not fully experience myself because I had just missed the train. Which was a relief since this was a licensed game following The Legend of Korra, which without a doubt was Platinum's weakest game to date. Transformers, however, seems to have a strange luck with licensed games. It is one of the few franchises that does not seem to suffer from shovelware. Like, apart from Rise of the Darkspark in recent memory, most of the Transformers games are pretty good, and Platinum only adds to this record. One thing that really caught me off guard with this game was the focus on melee combat, which, as Platinum, is understandable, but melee isn't what I seem to think of whenever I talk about the Transformers franchise. I think gunplay and transforming, not melee and sick car combos, which was a pleasant addition. I cannot stress that enough. At the end of the day, this was thankfully not another Legend of Korra. This was a Platinum game through and through, making excellent use of the license, and I can only sit here and hope that whichever merciful God is around in this life will grant us with a sequel. Number 1. Look, it's Bloodborne, okay? Bloodborne is my game of the year. In my subjective opinion, this is objectively the best game released in 2015. Don't like it? Fight me. Want this on PC? Fight me. This game was released near the start of the year, and no game has managed to take its crown. Bloodborne, in my opinion, is the best game of 2015. It is the best Souls game, and it is just the best game I have had the pleasure to play in a long while. And the DLC only added to that. The DLC added to the world, it added to the lore, it included the best boss fight in the entire game. Bloodborne without the DLC, game of the year, if not lacking in a few aspects. Bloodborne with the DLC, unquestionable, best game of the year. Good on you, From Software. You made another spectacular game, and I await patiently for Dark Souls 3. And there we have it. That was the Subjective Objective Awards of 2015. A completely arbitrary award show. Totally unneeded, but done anyway. Purely because I felt like it. So long, and I'll see you all in 2016.